Deco getting the ball, Deco, and zinging it out to Ronaldinho 6 times in a row, straight to his chest, and him holding me Paul Caddis off. And I was like, "Come on, you're gearing, you're putting your shoes in like that. You're a fan of handmade Italians, man."
John Moss
Was it John
Man
Moss?
City, and he
put you in your place
and
to be
just
fair.
turned around and goes like, "Listen, stop being so chirpy just because you've got a start this week."
But I was in the running for Scotland's most stylish man.
Welcome to the warm-up. 2 sensational guests for you this week, and we've let Stephen Naismith back in the co-pilot seat. You must have done all right last week. You feeling okay?
I feel good.
Yes.
Feel really good, relaxed this week.
Chat show host, paddle tennis player, amateur baker. You were telling me honestly the skills that this guy's got. But 2 brilliant guests, Steven Pressley and Aiden McGeady. How are you both? Both well?
Very well.
Very good, thanks.
Aiden, let's start with Celtic. It's been the big story over the last couple of days. That Champions League progression. Yes, a new format, but still progression that we've not seen in many years. How big a victory was it?
Yeah, it was a massive victory. I think Celtic dominated the game last night. Controlled, especially the first half, so many chances. But the second half, you start to see that anxiousness creep in, don't you, at Park? It always happens. Everybody's been there themselves. But once Celtic got that goal, there was a few nervy moments that last 5 minutes. But massive for the club to progress. And I mean, it's progression, but it's in a strange way. It's not, because it's a playoff, isn't it? So you're not automatic through the last 16.
I was going to say that. How big? So you make the last 16, right, of the old format.
Uh-huh.
This is a different format to promote more teams going through. The achievements, how do they sit?
It's kind of almost like a watered down Super League, isn't it, in a way? But listen, for the clubs it makes sense. Like for Celtic, Rangers, if Rangers qualify for the Champions League, how much more money, more
I've
revenue.
enjoyed this setup this year, the way it is, the structure, the teams you play in different teams. It's
It's
good.
hard to get your head round at the very start though, wasn't it? But I do think it's good, and it's hard to compare the two, because it was 6 games, wasn't it, before? Now it's 8 games, and now you're through to a playoff. Listen, Celtic potentially still could get through, couldn't they, to to that top 8? But massive for the club, massive revenue stream, massive income. I think the new format it's helped a lot of clubs, in terms of their budgets, their revenue, their income. This kind of new format. So I do agree. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it, especially the fact that it's not home and away. It's random teams, from everywhere, and it's not, you've not got a double header.
Stephen, the whole point when Brendan Rodgers came back, this is what people really were looking at, because he clearly had done it all domestically. I don't think there were any question marks there. He sits there on the first day back and talks about trying to progress in Europe. So I guess, job done on that front. How important was it for him and the club overall?
I think massively important. I think they showed their intention at the start of the season. They made real investment in players, and obviously the progression, is a mark of that. I think it's important not just for Celtic. I think it's really important for our game as a whole. When you look throughout our game this season, our Rangers and Celtic are obviously flying the flag at present, but our other clubs, made very little impact in the game. So, I think Celtic's progression and hopefully a result for Rangers will do our game a lot of good.
Talking about new formats, did you not play in the first ever original Champions League format? Sorry to make you feel old. At Marseille, what was that like?
Yeah,
Was it called the European Cup?
Well, that's the first year, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's not that.
Do you know an interesting stat, Aidan?
Give us it.
Right.
Give us it.
Me and Paolo Maldini played in that same
Not
year.
the same team, obviously.
Not the same. No, in that same year, and retired
Really?
from it. Yeah.
Quite some correlation over the careers, huh?
Yeah.
Is that where the similarities
that's
end?
where the
Or is
similarities
that-
end,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Long hair,
Yeah.
great on the ball.
Yeah.
Do you remember who scored the first ever goal then in the Champions League? Because you would have
The
been
group stages.
involved. 'Cause that was it, wasn't it? 90. It was at 92, 93.
What,
First
was it in
ever.
this game? Mm-hmm. Was it in this game?
Mark Gately, Gary McSwiggan.
The Rangers scorers.
That night was
Who were you
Gary
playing?
Marseille.
Playing Marseille? Not Papan, no?
Alan Boksic.
Alan Boksic,
Boksic,
yeah.
So
The
you
two
should-
strikers that night were Boksic and Ruli Bola.
It's not a bad standard, is it?
Decent standard, yeah.
What do you make of the way that format's it changed from then to the format Aiden and Steven played in to now? You like it?
Well, the format then was champions only. You know, and I think you played 2 qualifying rounds to get to the group stage, and then the group stage only consisted of 2 groups of 4. I think that season we played Lyngby home and away winning, and then I'm trying to actually think who the next game. Leeds United, of course, the Battle of Britain, to get to that format, and then in the league format there was CSK Moscow, FC Bruges, ourselves and Marseille in one league. So it was a new format at that time, and it proved to be a very successful format.
I think later on that format changed with top teams. They qualified after 4 games. The last 2 are a bit, from a fan's point of view. That's why I think this is a bit getting used to getting your head round the schedule, but one league table, it's brilliant. You see, constantly moving. One goal can jump you 5-6 places.
Look at the last match day as well. Man City last night.
Match day is going to be
crazy.
It's going to keep moving.
Crazy.
A lot of the words that keep being used around Celtic is like, you know, progression. I think we covered maturity. Do you feel like the team has progressed? I mean, even going back to Dortmund, all those old questions came up. I was just too open and conceding 7 goals. Do you think you're now seeing a more mature Celtic team able to handle whatever the challenges are?
I think the Dortmund game was I understand why the team was set up that way, because domestically the team were performing very, very well, and it was maybe, let's see how we do. I do think in that game there probably did have to be a bit of a change, kind of midway through. And there's been loads of debates about it. Could it have been, you know, led on pitch, led off field? But I think since then you've seen a far more pragmatic Celtic, and the way the team have played the last 2-3 games in Europe, they've performed very well. I think the biggest change for me was that Atlanta game away from home. You thought, is it going to be, say, Postecoglou stuck to his guns, his principles, never really changed, and you've probably seen that at Spurs just now. But kind of the same kind of, not criticisms, but the same kind of arguments were levelled at Brendan Rodgers. Is it, this is the way we're going to play, or we're not going to change? And I think there was a big change in that game, and to come away from Atlanta with a really good point away from home, and then progress and play well in these European games. And ultimately the main aim that was levelled at the Celtic team before this season was actually progression in Europe, and that's happened so far.
Must have been Celtic fans behind the couch, Stephen. What was it? Three disallowed goals, a missed penalty. Must have wondered if it was maybe not going to be their night.
Yeah, and just carrying on from what Aiden said, I think that one of the great importance of being a head coach is the adaptability.
Yeah.
I think it's a vital part. I look at our own club at Brentford, and it's one of the strengths of our manager. You see a lot of managers going into jobs and having a great idea of how they want to play, clear principles. But around that, I think one of the most important factors is understanding the opposition, understanding their strengths and adapting to that. And I think that Brendan has learned some important lessons along the way. But the good thing is he's learned those lessons and he has become a more adaptable manager.
You look at last night, brings Ida on when really Kyogo's scored offside. He could have brought McCowan on for Hatate, but he didn't. And then Hatate comes up with what a pass that was for the goal. That's exactly what you're talking about. That probably goes unnoticed.
Yeah.
If they'll just think, Celtic won, they should have won, they'll get the win. But that for me is top management.
Absolutely, and being adaptable and learning from your lessons, and he seems to have done that, and they've made good progress this season.
It's a strange night though, because it was, I don't know, an hour after full time. That's when the Kyogo headlines really started. I think by the time Callum McGregor makes it into the seat to do the press conference, stories are now out there about Kyogo potentially leaving. What do you make of that, Aiden? Because of all this stuff about sell on, and he's 30 and 10 million, but he's obviously Celtic's best striker as well.
Yeah, he is, but there's been bringing Adam Ida in for that amount of money as well means that he is the long-term prospect. I think ultimately Celtic for the last 20 years have been a very, very well-run organisation. Player trading model. Kyogo getting to that age is probably not the ideal time to sell him. I mean, I think he's probably, I'm not saying he's past his best, of course, that's not what I'm saying, but the ideal time to sell him might have been a year or two ago. But the way that Celtic look at things, in my opinion, is that if you can get money for a player who's 30, 20 and 30, kind of not on the decline, but it's like over the age of 30, you don't get contracts for 2-3 years anymore, 4 or 5 years. But if you can still get good money for one of your top players, and you can also bring success on the park, which Celtic have done for the last 15, 20 years, it makes sense.
That must be so, because you're at Brentford, one of the kind of model clubs in a way, the way they do things, but that must be hard for fans, because Aidan's right. If you're looking at it purely from a business point of view, fine. But some fans would say, okay, what do we need more? 10 million in the bank or Kyogo there or on the pitch based on how good he's been? Because what a servant he's been.
He's been a terrific player for them, but as Aidan said, future planning, it looks like they recruited Aidan in the summer with that in mind. I think that the January window in particular is a window where you can command inflated prices. So there will be that opportunity. So, it's a little bit of chicken and egg situation. Celtic might only have 2 more games within Europe. You don't know. Hopefully that's not the case. But at the same time, do you trade that off against receiving, potentially 10 million plus? So it's a big decision.
What you're saying as well is like possibly, potentially 2 more games in Europe, potentially more. But can you do without Kyogo domestically, which is maybe the long-term plan? Probably can.
Yeah. At the moment, they're in a good position to do that.
Absolutely.
So if there was 2 points in the title race, you think there's less chance that you're willing to sell Kyogo in January?
I said last week it's high risk. It still is, because the European side and probably the fans' expectations of, we want the best players to get us as far as we can, but they will look at other players potentially coming in. As Joseph just said there, getting that amount of money for a 30-year-old is really good, and domestically they're comfortable.
And they've been linked also with a young lad that's been doing really well in the lower leagues in England. I've actually seen him on a number of occasions.
Barry.
Yeah. I've seen
Louie
quite,
Barry from Villa,
I've seen him quite a number of times.
See Jota's name thrown back into the mix.
Always is.
Can you see
And
it?
KT.
I mean, Tierney's really been. I mean, that looks like that's going to happen, whether it's January or the summer. If you could get Kyogo, good money for Kyogo, bring Jota back, I think the Celtic fans would take that.
Yeah, I think if you lose Kyogo, you would have to caveat it with another big signing that's going to get the fans back on side straight away. Because I do think losing Kyogo, a lot of the fans would not be happy about that.
And Jota, but what Jota's not just a wide player, he produced goals as well as assists, which would balance that off slightly.
I think Barry would be more of a Celtic signing.
Yeah?
Yeah, just in the respect that I think the model that Aidan talked about bringing in players at a certain level, developing them with potential to sell on at big gains is probably looking at him. He fits that mould.
See if Kyogo went, and now we are getting ahead of ourselves. But if Kyogo,
massively.
Major. I've got about 5 moves in mind here. Bear with me. If Kyogo went and Jota came back, do you think there would be more of an onus on Daizen Maeda as a striker?
I think so. I was just going to say that there when. So you're talking about Louie Barry, aren't you?
Yeah.
The boy was at Villa.
Yeah.
Stockport, yeah.
Out at Stockport.
He's a player that you're thinking is maybe third. In my opinion, that would be like third choice striker. But if you lose Kyogo, he automatically becomes second.
Yeah.
He automatically becomes second choice, doesn't he? Maybe behind Maeda, possibly, but Maeda's strengths are out wide. That's where he's played his best football. So that's 100%. I think
Barry's played a lot of his game on the left-hand side for Stockport.
I'm not. I totally understand that, but I'm saying the jumping levels from Stockport to playing Champions League football is you're not going to come in and hit the ground running now. So it's a developing player. So I think automatically he'd be third choice in my opinion.
How much of a relief was it then to get the win, because people were almost acting like that was the last game of the league phase, because I'm assuming that's because they think Aston Villa's going to be tough. Celtic would have had the chance had the other night not gone well, but now looks like Villa need something as well, don't they, because they slipped up. Is that a nice position to be in? There's no such thing as a free hit, and Celtic will look to climb the table as much as possible, but nice to be able to go to Villa without needing something.
I think that was the relief for every Celtic fan, just the game last night, thinking we need to get something, because we know if we don't, the next game against Villa is going to be massive, and they need something as well. Very strong team, very good manager, and Celtic needs something. Could have made for an amazing game, but going there with that kind of cushion a little bit is
it'll be a good test
relaxing
to see where Celtic, from Dortmund to there, where Celtic have.
Because I think they obviously hoped that Villa would be home and hosed.
Yeah,
and it's not going to be the case. I think everybody probably knows, but Rangers are going to play down at Old Trafford. By the time this goes out, the game will have taken place, so you can all look like the cleverest people ever if you can nail your predictions in advance. But how big a game is that, Stephen? You played in the I think, was that the last time the sides met?
Yeah, I think it was. It's I think it's different. 2 different teams where they're at. We went down there, we got a draw, and a lot of it you're without the ball, in a shape, organised, and that was a good result for us. I think where both teams are at, Rangers will be optimistic they can go down there from their previous performances in Europe and the Old Firm. and what the Man U manager's been saying in terms of playing at Old Trafford, being the worst Man United team ever, that just adds. We know being at a big club, playing under that pressure, first 20 minutes, if it's not going well.
I mean, he says we
tough
can't
environment.
concede first. It's so like open. And what do you make of that? Is that as you're a, as
He's
a
come out
player?
with some funny statements.
Some
Some
big ones.
manager, yeah, some bizarre statements. They can concede first, of course they can. There's got enough quality to still win the game. I don't see. I know exactly what you're talking about in terms of like big clubs. We've all played the big clubs, and you know the pressure that it brings. But Man U are in a kind of, they have been in a transition phase for the last, since probably Alex Ferguson left. But I think a lot of the players and a lot of the results you can get masked over by that fact that we keep talking about Man United, when they're going to come good, change your manager, change your team, change your personnel. But yeah, in terms of some of the statements have been quite funny, but I did expect them to be. You normally get a new manager bounce, don't you?
Yeah.
Scored within the first
City.
minute of his first game, rubbing your hands, but it's
And then
been
the
tough.
City result as well. But it's been tough. It just goes to show it's not. As you know, management's not easy, is it?
This
It's not, is it?
Certainly
I
not.
don't know.
We'll maybe get to that. Does it still feel like a big deal? I mean, and if you were to be really harsh about it, Royal Rangers are playing the 14th best team in England at the moment. But it's still Old Trafford, isn't it? It's still Manchester United.
Yeah, and obviously within that they have some really top talent. I think the one thing they've struggled with since he's come in is in games where they have the ball, where they're expected to win. Their best performances have come in the Arsenal game, the Liverpool game.
Similar to Rangers.
Similar to Rangers, exactly, where they're able to sit in and hit on the transition. They've been quite effective on that, and it might suit Rangers this, as I've said, the purity of the game. The
Football
purity of the game,
purist.
yeah.
Changed your tune since you finished playing. Total football now.
And Rangers, just the ability to sit in, pressure the game in the right areas, and then the transition on that. So that's why I think Rangers have a chance tonight.
Two teams who are at their best without the ball, apparently. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
how it-
It's never
it
something
pans
you
out.
want level that, is it?
It's not go on then. This will be good fun
They
because you
both
can-
need to get something as well. That's the other part of it. They're
I suppose
both
they'll
still trying to.
Rangers already got 11 points still heading into it.
Yeah, but just to confirm, get as high as you can, especially in Europe, Europa League style, where they want to go as far as they can. In recent history, they've got to a final.
Done well, yeah. Right, go on, let's get predictions out there because you will look so smart if you get these. By the time this show goes out, the game will have taken place. How do you think it's going to go?
2-2 for me. Goals for both teams.
I'll go 1-1.
I'll go 2-0, Man United.
There we go.
You would.
Just sledgehammer.
No.
Every comment's going to be that, isn't it?
Man United, Old Trafford, few lads haven't played there before. Big pitch, bright lights.
What was it like?
Pleasure, get
What was it like
class.
going there? Is that? I mean, you've played it a few, which we'll get to, but kind of walking out Old Trafford.
That
is
was my first time really being down in England playing in a big stadium. And to be fair, it is a proper stadium. From outside, it's got a bit of stature, but actually going in, and obviously it's right in the ground, so the stadium's massive. Atmosphere's good. And yeah, we played a good Man United team at the time, so you were fully focused.
Rooney and
Rio
et cetera.
Ferdinand, they had a really good team. But we ground out
Who were
nothing
you
each.
up against? Or were you just sitting back like everybody else?
I was playing on the left, but like a sixth defender. Not sure who it was. I think it was one of the Brazilian twins.
Oh,
that was playing,
Rafael, I think, yeah.
Who'd have been playing right wing for Man United then? Nani,
Valencia maybe?
Valencia.
Valencia. So, but they were a proper team, like challenging at the top, and 80,000 fans. It was a great atmosphere, and it will be again tonight because it is two British teams going at it.
Was Sir Alex the manager then?
I think it was. Aye.
Was he?
Aye. So it was a great occasion, especially when one of the first times you're playing in a big, a Champions League contender away from home.
What way round was it again? Did you start the game at Old Trafford and not at Celtic Park?
Yeah. Started the game at Old Trafford. Had a bit of a nightmare, if I'm being totally honest.
In what way?
Quite just one of those games where nothing was going right. You know, ball was going to my foot and out of play. I was giving the ball away. I think I was playing against Gary Neville and turned him a couple of times, went past him, I thought, and then next time he tackled me. Just one of those games where it's hard, I think, European games, especially like Old Trafford. you have to do as much as you can when you've got the ball, because you have it for such a small amount of time. And I didn't do enough that night, so quite rightly.
But then
You had a bit of onus on you though in that Celtic team.
Is that tough as a winger?
Your teammates would look at you as if, go on, you do something for us, won't they?
But then to be fair, like Naka scored the free kick, didn't he? Big Jan scored I think it was like a flick on, wasn't it? And he got in the end of it. So we scored 2 goals, off the cuff. But again, as a winger, it's a winger at any club. Yeah, that's what I keep telling. Like, players so similar to me, my kids as well. It's like it's not what you've done. You can't affect that. It's like, confidence. It's what you do next. And if your strength is beating players, like probably mine was, it's having that confidence and that belief that you keep doing it again.
See the Nakamura free kick. We've all seen how many free kicks you've seen that find the back of the net, but you feel like that is genuinely hard to beat. Like, still every time you see it,
so it's the second one, the home game.
The home game.
I don't think I've seen a free kick better than that. I mean,
he's far out as well.
So far out. It's against Van der Sar as well. See that the amount of people have said this to down in, because the way the Scottish game is viewed. It's not viewed the same way we view it. And people talk about someone that's got a good left foot. Who used to always have this argument at Everton, do you remember? Like, everyone used to go like, Benzie, best left foot I've ever seen. I'm like, not a patch on Nakamura. And they're like, Nakamura? And I'm like, watch us. And I'm getting up his free kick, and like, I've never seen a free kick like that. And then getting up the video, I'm hitting the ball in the bus window. I'm not like an absolute madman. Look at this video, he's sitting a cup off the top of social media. He's sitting the ball off, a cup off the top of a wedding cake.
Is he acting like Nakamura's agent down at Everton, trying to convince everybody?
Us down there, you did have a bit of... They disregarded a lot of Scottish football and the standard of it. But so many players that have done well in England come up to Scotland and can't deal with it, because it is a different game, a bit more physical. So you do try and fly the flag for the Scottish game.
I think that's clearly what adds to it with these, they're sometimes referred to Battle of Britain. Is that sort of rivalry? Were you in and around when Rangers played Leeds then? Were you in the stands?
Yeah, I was in the stands.
What was that like? Because that's like one of the originals from the so-called modern era.
The atmosphere that night was one of the best I've ever experienced. It was an incredible night at Ibrox. Of course, there was a big rivalry there, and at that time, Rangers were able actually to attract some of the biggest talents from England. It was a time where the finances at Rangers were probably greater than they were at Leeds United. In the leagues themselves, there wasn't disparity between them in that sense. So, you had periods where Rangers were signing, for example, the Terry Butchers of this world, although that was slightly before. But my point being that we're able to attract the top players. So it was a big game. And, of course, your closest friend, Mr. Strachan...
why are you bringing that up?
I'm glad he did that.
And there was that element around it as well, because 2 of Leeds' biggest performers at that time was Gary McAllister and Gordon Strachan. So was that there was also that rivalry there.
See how people say, man, you're higher level than Rangers at the moment. Going into that game, it obviously looks slightly even, but did both squads go into it thinking we could win it?
Yeah, definitely. But I do think that up here, we look upon these games with greater intent than they do down there. It's a big game for us to make a statement. And I think that night, they certainly did make a statement. Definitely. It was an incredible game. If I remember rightly, Leeds scored very early on too.
Really early,
Very early on that night. But amazing atmosphere in the stadium.
It was your Champions League debut against Barcelona?
Yeah, it was. I went from
nice, easy transition.
Playing Peterhead away in the League Cup to a month later coming on to Nou Camp against Messi and Iniesta.
Tell me it was Peterhead away.
It was
brilliant. What a transition!
Scratching your head the night before the game in the Nou Camp, like, this pitch is huge. Thinking of Peterhead's pitch. Some experience, but it was the moments you're probably not ready for it at that moment, but you're just taking it all in, loving every minute of it, and then over time you just become comfortable in the setting, which we've probably all experienced.
I mean, you're the same, because you both played in that era where Barca, AC Milan, Man United. Is there it's like one player or one standout moment that you think, right, that's the Champions League level? Is there just so many?
I think it's just the quickness. They're thinking, or they know their pass before they get the ball a lot of the time, and you're going to close them down, but you're too late. Or one chance, one moment, a Nakamura free kick that's the defining moment of the game. That was for me the biggest thing, the speed of it and the quality of the touch. There wasn't a bad touch 50-50 much in their game.
So I was the same. Not one moment in particular, but I think it was maybe the AC Milan game. And if you're comparing it to like SPL games at the time, the ball goes into midfield and it's bouncing, and it goes into a centre mid and it's maybe getting flicked on, and the ball's coming to Seedorf and he's just chesting it with two players around him and just
holding somebody off.
Yeah, I think that. Do you remember the Barcelona game where we lost? And I was absolutely devastated after it. We lost. Messi scored twice, didn't he? Henry scored that one. We lost 3-2. I was devastated after it because I was like, that's a different
amazing
level. That's a different level completely. Like Deco getting the ball, Deco, and zinging out to Ronaldinho 6 times in a row, straight to his chest, and him holding me Paul Caddis off. Victor Valdez throwing the ball to Yaya Toure in centre mid, and he's holding it, chesting it down, taking a touch and playing it to someone. I was like,
so in a small moment, your AC Milan game that you performed, and how do you then feel coming off after that game when you've been a big player in a Champions League game?
Oh, that was my first proper experience that I was started. That was my first start in the Champions League. But you know what it's like when you're a young player. Nothing's really expected of you, is it? You're a bit fearless, and I think I got into the game really well. I think the first time I got it, done a step over down the line, went past. It was Colaccini I was playing against. Had a good cross in. Next time I came inside, had a shot, just went over the bar. I came off after that game thinking, it's just again playing against like the level was unbelievable. But I was going playing against top players and you can handle it. So for me, it was amazing. But
I think Gary Neville.
I think it's always going to be like this.
Gary Neville brought back.
This is easy. This is easy.
When I thought this is Champions League, I was actually not even playing the game. I was at Celtic. I was out with a back injury for a period, and it was a Barcelona game. I was watching them warm up, and Ronaldinho.
The same game I'm talking about.
Ronaldinho was at the halfway line, and I can't remember who was down on the byline, but they were taking it chest volley. It was just insane. And I'm thinking,
one thing I know
that's the level.
Talking about the Barcelona game. So we grow up, you've got to work hard, you've got to be up and down the pitch. Watch Messi for 10 minutes and he literally stood right in front of the dugouts on the halfway line and didn't move. But everybody else is going about, and he's just waiting. I got going through his career, he started talking about that, saying I was just smarter, I wasn't running up and down, I was just waiting for my moment. But to notice the trust these guys had in their teammates to go, I'm not moving, I'll get the ball eventually. Whereas we're all firing about everywhere over the pitch, trying to cover space.
I suppose in Messi's situation, it's slightly different, isn't it? Like
just a bit.
Some carry the piano and some play it, don't they? So he's got 10 other players who knew how good he was. So he did. But you're right, what you're saying, having that trust in your teammates.
But we grow up and everybody's got to run forward, everybody's got to run back. But it was a totally different game to these guys. They just waited, and it was just
even
waiting.
what you're saying about the warm up there. I think what a warm up's like in Scotland. Got to be at it, lads. The warm up. You go out for a warm up and it's
keep
like keep your uppies, wee rondo, passing each other, couple of jogs. I watch it all the time and I'm like, why is that so different to what we do? It's the mentality.
It's a mentality thing, yeah.
Did you get a shirt in your first new camp?
So I was, through my career, my debut, I always try to keep my shirt.
Of course.
Come on at the new camp, coming off, and with Thuram, last 2 players off the pitch, and I'm like, I can't turn this down.
Yeah.
So I just swapped my debut Champions League top with Thuram, so I've got his, which was a good one to get, really good one.
You must have loads.
I've got a few.
He's going to drop
get
some names here. I'm
coming name dropping. I've got a wall in my house of like kind of my 10 tops that I got framed. Kaká, Pirlo, Puyol, Iniesta.
This is like a Ballon d'Or shortlist.
It's hard though when people say it, but I've also got a couple of Brazil ones. This isn't Champions League, but we played them and they never had the names in the back of the tops.
That was a nightmare on a friendly.
Just go and get it printed.
I was thinking about doing it because
he's up with the picture of you in the back.
Me standing behind him at the 90th minute going like that. He's a thought, mate.
It's funny though because you get them and you keep them all, but as you get older, you're a bit like, you've got these tops, but what do you do with them now?
And that's why you've got to do. You've got to get them framed. So it's actually something you can look back on. Otherwise, they're just sitting in a cupboard.
It's the same with the national team as well as some of the Champions League early ones. No names on the back, just numbers.
It's a killer.
I was clearing some of my stuff a number of months ago and going through some of the jerseys. A lot of the jerseys, I actually couldn't identify what player had wore that jersey. It was just a number. So
down the Forge Market getting the name printed on it yourself.
two Brazil ones and two France ones. So remember the
who
France
do they
game?
belong to?
Dani Alves and Rubinho, and the France ones Anelka and Makaleli.
But they don't have the names.
No,
That is devastating,
That's a
isn't it?
killer.
that's a gutter.
That
innit?
was one.
That's a gutter.
yeah.
After the international friendlies, you were gutted when it was just.
So that would be friendlies?
Kit men being lazy. No putting the names on the
It was a friendly, but Rubinho scored and he was at Real Madrid at the time, and he was like the
kid, yeah.
He was the top boy in like world football, like kind of probably equivalent to Neymar,
Yeah.
a few years ago. But then I got it and I was like absolutely buzzing. I'm going, let's just get number 7 in the back. I'm like, no, it's just Rubinho's top.
That's it, yeah. Don't believe it. So was your last ever Champions League game was against Celtic? Yeah. What was that like?
I think it was actually. So I don't think I played any more games after that. It was back at Celtic Park. Coincidentally, speak about this sometimes. Celtic never won away from home in Europe, and I was part of those squads. And then the first game Celtic won, I'm playing. I'm playing. Beat us 3-2 or 2-1 was it at Spartak away. But then I was injured, kind of the rest of the group, and I came back for the Celtic game at Parkhead. It was a funny one because you're coming back home and you're seeing all old faces, guys you played against, guys you grew up with. Wasn't sure on the kind of reaction I was going to get as well from the fans, but I was injured and I kind of got an injection when I need to come back and play, and went out to warm up and got a great reception. Listen, we never had a great campaign when I was at Spartak that year, but it was amazing being back at Celtic Park in a nice environment, because I also played there with Ireland against Scotland, which wasn't so nice.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah,
That
wasn't
We
so
won
nice being
1-0.
back.
That was a great night.
And I came off the post for Sean's goal.
Did you?
So like
That's one of my favourite Scotland goals for a long time.
brilliant
I
goal.
remember your head had gone and coming off at half time.
God, you try to say stuff to me as usual.
I'm going off to him. I'm like, stop letting Robbo dominate you. And your head fell off.
It was one of those games where you're
Trying so hard.
See the build up to it as well. I don't know if James
Jamesy.
played. Did Jamesy play in that game? Not sure
At
if Jamesy
Celtic Park
played.
as well,
At
obviously,
Celtic
rather than
Park.
Hampden.
But like, it's all Scotland fans, and you just get, you're not used to it, but you're getting absolutely terrorised. Every time you touch the ball, booed. Listen, it's fine. It comes with the territory of what I chose to do, but that goal especially. So I was on the post, and it was like 1-2, wasn't it? And Sean,
Yeah, Sean and
Bruni
Bruni.
back heel to
Yeah.
Sean, and Sean's put
Right
it
to the
in, but
box, and he just
because it was a short corner, our whole defensive kind of moved out, and I'm standing on the post going, I'm playing everybody on side here. So I've ran off the post and Sean stuck it in the far post. And then after it, is like Martin, he was like, we had a meeting, he was going, why are you coming off the post? And I was like, well, playing everybody on side. And he was like, nah, never come off the post. And I was just like, couldn't have went any worse.
It's a great night. Brilliant night for
Couldn't have went
Scotland.
any
that.
worse. But we ended up qualifying anyway. But just got on.
That's actually a good point.
Euro
Let's
2016,
move
yep.
on.
yep.
The warm-up brought to you by William Hill, proper supporter of Scottish football.
Okay, let's put these two under a bit of pressure. The Rondo. Time to ask them some 5 quick fire questions. Who are you going? You're going Steven
Okay,
Pressley.
Steven
Do you want to go
Pressley.
first? Do you want to lead
Yep.
us off this week?
I will do it. So the first question, Steven Pressley and favourite centre-back partner.
Oh,
I'll answer this for you.
Oh,
I played. When you go there.
That's Caldwell.
I would have thought somebody maybe different. I don't
No,
know.
Yeah,
listen, I
I
really enjoyed working with Gaz, actually. Gaz is one of the players that I had huge respect for. He was such a resilient character, a good character. I'm still heavily
that
in
much.
touch. What?
Just not that much.
No, it's not that, Aidan. It's just I didn't play with Gaz for a prolonged period.
I was thinking Scotland more, but
Webby, no?
Yeah. I
Aye,
would
I
say probably, he was the probably the partnership that I've
Andy Webster.
formed for the
And you
longest
probably
period
helped
of
him.
time.
His development is probably
Yeah,
been helped by a lot by yourself.
and one of the things I liked about Andy was he was a young player, but he was a communicator as well on the pitch, and I liked that. I liked playing alongside somebody else that would speak. Aidan, it wasn't just myself. So I would say probably over my career,
start.
Andy
Okay.
Webster.
Favourite Scottish Cup one?
Hearts, obviously. I think being at the club for the length of time I'd been there, I think it was 7.5, 8 years prior to that, and then being the captain. And I was a young player that was an Aberdeen supporter growing up, so one of my heroes was Willie Miller. And you know, as a young
See
guy, I
him lift
watched him lift
Yeah.
lift the cup on numerous occasions, and wanted to emulate that. So it was a dream come true.
This one's good. Best manager you played under?
I wouldn't answer that with any particular one. I think I was fortunate enough that I worked under many great managers, all with their own strengths. You know, Walter Smith was a great man manager, had a great presence, you know, had a great understanding of the club. Gordon, I really enjoyed working with Gordon. Gordon was a frank manager, a demanding manager. I also really enjoyed Craig Levein in his early years. He was quite a ferocious manager, but a fair manager. And I really enjoyed working under them. So there was a number of managers I
They
really
probably all
enjoyed.
have the same thing in that honesty.
They did have that
And that's
honesty.
massive.
They did. They
What
were
do you,
all...
what do you want from a manager? What does everybody always wanted?
You can be raging with him for a
Honesty.
decision or a
Absolutely.
conversation, but if you can look back and go, he was actually fair.
all three of them were really straight and honest individuals. So I really enjoyed working with them.
Elvis Presley or AC/DC?
Probably Elvis Presley, although I like quite a lot of rock. You know, I'm a Guns N' Roses fan. But I also...
Did you ever see him coming with a leather jacket and that? Celtic? No.
Not really a leather jacket type of guy, were you?
Motorbike?
Nah, I wasn't.
No.
No.
No, I
He did set
wasn't.
the trend though, seeing us talk about his gear with the pointy shoes and that. A few lads followed in his footsteps after that.
It's a good compliment,
did.
that.
A few lads started to do that. Younger lads as well.
Like who? I can't
You?
imagine many.
You
given
know,
time.
no, no,
no.
Do you know, Aidan?
Big
Do you know...
Mick, Big Mick.
And
Big
you-
Mick after that
did he?
started coming in with
Is
like
that
very,
right?
very dressed up with like the shoes on and stuff, and we'd be like that. Trendsetter, by the way.
Well, do you
Trent
know?
Setter.
Do you know?
One day.
I'm trying to think
One
the
day.
year. Listen, I'm trying to think.
I'm still in the football. I'm
I'm trying to think
I've
the
not
year.
grown up yet. I'm still wearing hoodies and all that.
I know that, but I'm trying to think the year that I was in the running for Scotland's most stylish man.
Oh wow.
Just to let you know that.
And
Aidan.
what though? Like,
Well, myself and Doctor
no, I don't mean you were
Who
running
and-
in it, but like, who put you? Like, what was it? A magazine or was it a Daily Record or what was it?
I'm actually not sure, but I was in the running.
Was it a poll online? Was it the
I was
programme?
in. All I'm telling you is I was in the running.
Okay.
Right, last question. Randers or Rangers? Give us your thoughts on playing abroad and how you enjoyed it.
Oh, Aidan was talking about his time in Moscow. To be honest with you, I was scrambling about after I left Celtic. There wasn't the offers that I hoped would come. You know, I was 34 years of age, and I was open to, you know, moving abroad. And obviously going to Randers, I only went there for the 6 months. They had tried to sign a player in the summer window. They hadn't managed to agree it. It was going to go through in January, so they needed a stopgap. Of course, I was that guy. But I loved it over there. And my one regret after going
do it,
over there was exactly that, Stephen. I really wished I'd played abroad. The trouble was, I think more so in our day, the opportunity to go abroad isn't like it is now, where there's a far greater opportunity. But I really would have loved to experience that early in my career. I really enjoyed the time there. I made a few good contacts and met some good people over there, and it was a great experience.
Right, your turn. Favourite Russian word or phrase?
I was pretty much fluent when I was out there. Fluent, like I could conduct interviews and stuff, no problem. I could get on all well with my teammates.
That's
But I felt
unusual.
you had to. No, sorry. I could understand what they were saying.
Yeah,
I could understand what they were saying, and they could communicate. But
when you said
no,
you go on with them,
no, I still speak to quite a
So
lot.
were
of
you
them.
all
Right, okay.
surprised at Everton when he rocks into the Krasnodar
When
press conference?
we played a Russian team, the obvious one to do the press was Aiden because he's been there, and then it obviously just came out. I think it was on social media and that he's thrown a few sentences out in Russian, which everybody was wow.
It's because see, to be fair, that
impressive.
was one of the things that I felt I had to do over there, and it really integrated me with. I had a great relationship with the fans over there, and it was because, and even the journalists and stuff. I done an interview actually quite recently with a Russian newspaper, and they were saying like you were one of the only foreigners that came across and actually embraced the language, and like you got so much respect for it. And to be honest, it wasn't just because of that. It made my life easier. I could go into a restaurant and order food, go to the supermarket, and get my shop no problem. I could communicate. My driver was Russian, he didn't speak any English, so I could speak it like really well. But since I've left, it's kind of, you know, so many words you forget, and then you only use it on holiday if you're in Dubai or Turkey and you bump into Russian people, which I've had a couple of them. I've had a couple of discussions with some Russian people on holidays. But
Do you know who I am?
no. It's normally someone cutting in front of me in a line, which is quite common over there. It's like
And are they surprised?
What's
when
your
you-
response in Russian?
That word that you just
no.
said.
that
My response in Russia was like, I was on holiday in the summer. It's like a really, really common thing over there. I was at the airport and passport control, and people just swagger up to the front, just walk to the front of the queue. Supermarkets as well, people just walk to the front, and because it's a bit of a funny it's a funny environment. People don't know who they're maybe getting involved with, so no one says anything. So I then started doing it, and I was just, that's just normal. But then I was on holiday, someone done it to me, and I was like, "What are you doing, mate? Like, you're behind me." And then we started arguing, and eventually went
In
"Oh."
Russian?
Aye. Eventually went, "Oh, okay, you're right, it's fine." And they kind of waited behind me, but I don't use it very often anymore.
Imagine how shocked you'd be if you're like a Scottish football fan just in the airport and you see him arguing with some guy
In
in
Russian.
Russian in the queue.
It was more a debate, but yeah.
He's said that line before, hasn't he? Right, we'll take the old firm out of it. What's the next best derby match you've played in?
Never got to play in the Sunderland Newcastle, which would have been a really big one. Probably, I was going to say Liverpool Everton, but for me, that rivalry doesn't come close to Celtic and Rangers and Spartak and CSK. Spartak CSK was like, our stadium would be like 80,000 fans, and they'd proper, similar to Celtic and Rangers without the kind of, the religious aspect of it and other aspects of it, but really dislike each other. So Spartak CSK was probably the next best one I've played in.
What was more terrifying, Bobo Balde in training or the traffic cops in Moscow?
Nah, traffic cops in Moscow, no bother at all.
Is there a story there?
20 quid, there you go, mate. 20 quid, on you go.
Is there that culture seriously?
Yeah. Like, I spoke about it in an interview with the Russian newspaper I'd done, and I went into quite a lot of detail, and then I thought, not really. No, but they were loving it. They were like, no, it's normal. Like, everybody who leaves comes back and talks about it, and they're like, everybody knows the script here. And I was like, it's not amazing though if I ever go back to Russia, is it? Like, and I'm talking about this.
So what, you get pulled over, just
I get
money out and that's it?
They're pulled over for speeding, 100 rubles. There you go, mate, 1,000 rubles, whatever it is. One guy was a Spartak fan and was like, oh, when you go, no problem. Bobo Balde, probably, yeah. Just more for the fact, Bobo, I got on really, really well with Bobo, but he's used to wear studs in training every single day, but like rugby studs. And everyone used to say to him, why are you wearing such big studs? And he was like, I'm 100 kilos. I can't wear normal studs. And Bobo could be clumsy at times, if you got close to him. So, yeah, probably Bobo.
What about the most skillful you've played with? Because it's always you when other people are asked. Who's the most skillful you've played with?
I think you would say, I think you said Pienaar, didn't you?
Aye.
See, I never played with Stevie for that long to say Pienaar. Very,
Just
very
what he
skillful.
could do with a ball,
Yeah.
manipulate it, so good.
I think kind of Irish players, loads have come to mind. There was some Brazilians that I played with in Moscow that were like playing football, that were playing on the beach, and that was kind of the way they approached life. I would say their names, but you probably wouldn't know their names. One Brazilian we had to, the old stud roll nutmeg. That was literally on every single day, like 10 times a day. In terms of
How was Eto?
Again, very skillful as well. In terms of like, as a guy, great guy.
No,
Great guy.
I meant
to
skillful.
be fair, he was coming at the end of it.
He was, but he could still chop Hibble up a
It's
few
close
times in
control,
training.
but he just didn't have the electric pace to get away. But it was
It was still
character.
Good. That was a character, all right. Skillful, I don't know. Maybe say something like Damien Duff for kind of when he was at Chelsea. That kind of just signed for Chelsea. In terms of skillful, wasn't a little bit like Messi in a way. He doesn't do
More
step over
traditional
and
winger
stuff, but
sort of thing.
traditional winger
Yeah.
could just like go by someone, come inside.
That's not a bad shape.
Yeah.
Take that. Okay. And biggest name in your phone book?
This better be big.
No, it won't be big. It's not like a film star or something like that. No. I'm going to say Emery. Emery.
Nice one. Because Celtic are going to take him on. How good was he?
He was amazing, to be honest with you. Really, really good. Ahead of his time when he took us, doing things that now are kind of normal in football, shape, tactics, analysis. Whereas back then it was more training, possession, wee games. very, very methodical, very, studious in what he wanted to do. Could see he was a top manager. Not surprised by the success he's had.
You said he was the best you'd worked under. Is that still the same?
I felt sorry for him because he struggled with our Russian players who had they had a lot of influence with the dressing room, with the owners. I felt a bit sorry for him, but see what he was trying to build. I was like, he's amazing, this guy. I wish I'd have taken more from him in terms of like, I think you told me you done it Martinez. A lot of his sessions,
noting it down, and
which I probably didn't do back then. He's just like, not interested, just train every day. But very, very methodical in what he done, and I think he left us, won four Europa Leagues in a row. I think with Sevilla.
You stayed in
PSG
touch?
job.
When was the last time you
No,
spoke to him?
last time I spoke to him, he sent me a text, which wasn't very nice, but I think he was joking. I hope he was joking. It was like a kind of joking text. I think.
Was it that swear word in Russian that you told us
No,
about?
it was a swear word in English actually. Aye, but he was really good. I got on really well with him as well. It was kind of almost like I was like his confidant to an extent, where he would pull me in and go like, tell me his troubles in a way. I was like his therapist when we were in Moscow.
You need to get these two back together ahead of Villa Celtic. It makes
good
sense.
He was really good. Really good.
The warm-up brought to you by William Hill, proper supporter of Scottish football.
It's funny though, because like you guys almost overlap and played together and against each other internationally. Where does it begin? What are your first memories of
my
each other?
first memories of Elvis were when he was centre half and I'm young whippet trying to get in about him. Slightest touch, he hits the deck, gets a free kick all the time. It would drive you mental, and you were young, eager, and getting more wound up as it went on and on. That was a big one for me.
Experience. That's all it is.
Try dealing with that one when he gets him in training. He still gets the free kicks.
Aye, it was frustrating that.
I'm fascinated in this dynamic because you must be trying.
Apprentice and master, wasn't it? You just had a good relationship with Celtic.
Is he trying?
We did, aye.
We still kept in contact as well since
Yeah.
last few years as well. So I do. I remember I never liked you when you were at Hearts. I always found you dead annoying on the pitch. You as well, by the way. Like you were like,
This is good. Let's get all out in the open.
Annoying on the pitch, right? But off the pitch, completely different. But I enjoyed him at Celtic. Yeah, I always enjoyed his humour. Used to be able to get in my head as well in training sometimes, couldn't you?
I remember you, because you spoke really highly of Elvis when we got together at Everton, and you said there was a story about you were slaughtering his gear on the way in one day or something. And you had a one-liner that was, I can't remember.
I know exactly that. You should know this one as well.
I don't actually.
You know how like the way you're dressed just now, right?
Yeah.
You used to wear that stuff like back in the day, like shoes like a pair of pointies into training every day with like jeans and like a shirt with like a jumper. And I was like, "Come on, your gear," and you're putting your shoes in like that. You a fan of handmade Italians, man? It was something like that. Something like that, but it was good. Enjoyed it.
Did you have
was
to
good.
kick him a few times? Try to nutmeg everybody in training?
We actually had a good relationship, me and Aiden. One thing I liked about Aiden was he was direct. Sometimes his biggest strengths, his biggest weakness, but
Delivery, would you say?
delivery.
In terms of like
Very
the way
good.
that I speak.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought you
very
meant at the
good.
ball.
Flattered to see
I thought you
Celtic.
meant-
No, agreed.
No, I don't mean
no,
delivery
yeah.
in terms on the pitch. No, I'm talking about delivery in terms. Is that what you mean? Direct, as in the way that I speak, or direct on the pitch? Is that what you mean?
No, direct in the way you speak.
Nah, that's
You
what
know.
I meant as well.
How
Delivery.
did you find it going to Celtic from being a leader in the face of Hearts, probably under turmoil and stuff, but then going to a Celtic that's full of big characters, guys who have won titles? How do you feel going into that dressing room at your age?
I think it was easier at my age, Stephen, than it would be as a younger one. But still, it's like everything. We were speaking off air. I think that when you go to any environment, it sometimes takes time, before you transition. I was saying to you that at Brentford, our three best performers this year, last year, they probably had what would be considered disappointing seasons, but it's taken a year for them to feel fully comfortable within the environment. We did have a great dressing room at the time.
We did, yeah.
With some good personalities, and I suffered in my second season with a back injury, which limited me in terms of my game time. But I was there 18 months, and I loved every minute of it. Well, this guy, he gave me a few home truths, even on the. I remember when you're talking about winding him up. I remember coming off. We'd play 11v11, and
I remember this one as well.
What's this? No, it was
Was it Caddy? No.
no, we the 11v11, and he had a really rough session, and we turned him over that day, and he's telling me that as he did, I made a career from talking and heading the ball, and that was that was Aiden. But
The good thing is you would just laugh back though. And
no,
wind back
but
up even
listen,
more. Like,
absolutely, but
tongue in cheek it was.
I like that.
it wasn't really. It was
tongue in cheek though.
It was
what
the
is
reality of it.
amazing is, as you say, we've probably went through a career of hating guys that you've played against and you get wound up by them, but then you actually form good relationships that you're similar than you think, and that's probably where your success comes
I
from.
always remember, I said this to Aidan when we're in, because Scotty Brown was going to join us that summer, and there was, again, that feeling within the dressing room. They didn't particularly like him, but it's true, that game day is a different day. You put a different mask on to play that game.
Definitely.
I've talked in the past about some of my behaviour on the pitch and some of my antics that I'm not particularly proud of because it didn't really reflect what I was, but you did what you did what you needed to do, and Scotty was a prime example of that. When he arrived at Celtic, people were a bit unsure of him, but he proved to be, a really popular character within the dressing room. So it's part of the game.
Because when you two at
totally agree.
Everton, I mean, that with the Rangers Celtic thing was it's
See,
always
to be
intense.
honest, it goes way back before that.
Goes way back.
Way back, because we grew up playing
Same
against
age,
each
right,
other.
okay.
So through pro youth, you start playing it. Now, I was average in an average Kilmarnock team, and at 13, I'd still say it now, the best player I've ever seen was Aiden, but he had that sharpness that you had all the way through your career, and it was as if he had a force field around him when you're playing, and every player just tried to kick you at that age, didn't they? In all the games, 30 minutes, try and kick him as much as you can to stop him getting the ball, and to be fair, you just kept getting the ball, and then both being prospects, you go to the Old Firm and you've got that dynamic. And I remember Seamus Coleman, James McCarthy were at Everton, and we were all talking, and they were like, "Oh, you're all right, Aiden's a decent guy." I'm like, "I'm not sure how this is going to go." But then
I was
to be
exactly
fair-
the same with you as well.
But to be fair, when you then spend a week together, you click in and you have similar interests, and you become friends, and it's it is amazing the feelings you have, man, during the career, and how much you hate each other, and then it eases off.
Was the feeling mutual? You weren't sure
But
about
what you're
him.
saying about, like, I remember like having games with you, games against you with Kilmarnock and stuff, and you were like,
smashing each other, and
and a lot of people probably say in training, like, you were one of the ones who was on people a lot, and in games as well.
driving standards.
Listen,
I'd call
driving
that.
standards, I don't mind it, but in terms of when we used to play against you, you were hard to deal with on the pitch. Obviously, you were the best player in that Kilmarnock team, the biggest prospect coming through, but you also were able to handle it on the pitch and give it out, which we had quite a few arguments as well.
Aye.
Quite a few arguments, I remember. Yeah, I'm going to tell a story here, don't you?
Go for it. That's what we're here for.
What one?
No, but
Do
then
you
we
know? You had me on the edge of my seat there.
we just sort of kind of damn Park.
Come on.
Damn Park. They beat us, so they ended up beating us. Right, when any Kelly team or any other
I
team,
don't know if this story's true, but
it's definitely true. He was holding jackets in the back when a fight was going on. It was
Proper fight.
No,
Square
there was,
going in
there
the
was,
car
there
park,
was
wasn't there?
possibly a fight going on, and then when I went in the dressing room, he was standing there. And he's like, "How you doing, mate?" Like, nicest guy off the pitch, and I was like, "Pure taken aback." Like, I'm running after him, and then he was just totally different as soon as the game finished. But you could wind us up, but then when we got to Everton, it was like the same thing. Like, unsure of just playing against him and stuff, and finding the way he was on the pitch. And then you actually got on really well. So maybe we got on really well at Everton.
Is he the chirpiest you've played against and vice versa? Who's the ultimate getting in your head?
Brownie's up there, because Brownie was always one that was trying to do stuff. Elvis, you had your fair share.
I did.
You and Sutty
The dark arts of it.
You and Sutty
me and
definitely had a
Sutty.
few.
Sutty.
You definitely did.
Reminisce, I think.
I heard a few stories. I heard a few of those stories, but
Well, tell me.
difference between me and you, that one.
Oh, he liked that
Yeah,
one.
I heard that one. a few
He
times.
liked
Sutton
that
said
one.
that to you.
Yeah, he told me the difference between me and him was that I'd be working to 65.
No, that's what I heard. I heard the difference between me and you. About 5 million.
Yes, that was part of the same.
Something like
that was part. That was a normal one for
yeah.
Sutty. Yeah.
What were you? Who was the chirpiest?
Choppy and I'd probably say he was up
Yeah,
there.
well
See, even
done.
actually being in his
Congratulations, I'll take
team.
that.
Seeing being in his team. Do you remember? I love this one because like it was so funny because do you remember the one with Callum Chambers at Arsenal? You won't remember this because
No.
he was like always on the referees in England, right?
Sounds
Always
about
on the
right.
referees, and but Callum Chambers is like just signed for Arsenal, like young player, making his way in the game, but he's a big player for Arsenal, and he's tried a diag and it's went straight at the pitch, and he's telling me that you're not good enough to be trying to pass this, and he absolutely folded. He absolutely folded. Do you remember you were on one of the refs as well?
John Moss
Was it John
Man
Moss?
City, and he
He
came
put you in your place.
back and
to be
just
fair.
turned around and goes like, "Listen, stop being so chirpy just because you've got a start this week."
That's good.
Just like so, yeah, gave as good as I got. But I enjoyed that. So even the celebrating when you score in front of the fans, that's lost a wee bit. But
Yeah.
I like that.
How did the move to Russia come about? Because I suppose at the time, I do remember it, but it would have been seen as, was that a bit left field at the time?
Certainly was left field. I think it came about because we had Spartak the previous season, the Champions League qualifiers, performed really well against them, and I think the sporting director there was really, really keen on me as a player. Nothing happened. I never heard a word about it until they were kind of dealing with my agent at the time. I think, to be honest, like the time at Celtic, we just lost the league. I think maybe might have been this. It was Tony Mowbray, sorry, and then Lenny came in. Really difficult season. Season of transition as well, going through different managers. Performed okay personally, but not where I wanted to be. And I kind of felt myself, I don't know, almost stagnating a little bit because I'd been in the first team for quite a few years, and I'd always had it in my head to move at some point. And I think for everybody, it just suited everybody. Celtic were going to get good money for me. I'd probably done all that I could at Celtic in terms of winning trophies. I just think it suited everybody. Celtic
Did you have reservations about making a move's one thing, but going to Russia, language, culture, did that not?
I had reservations. Of course, I did. At first, I was like, nah, I'm not.
Was
not
it
sure
driven?
on this.
Was it driven purely by finance? Aidan?
Not at all. Not at all.
Stayed for 4 years as well. They stayed for 4 years.
Of course it was. Eh?
Well, it was kind of one of those ones where,
Did you get paid regularly?
yeah.
No, I've been serious. Did you?
You see me dive into it, no? So I know exactly what you're saying. We did, but Krosas was out there, and he never get paid for like 6 months. But our club was owned by a kind of Russian oil tycoon. But we were owned by Lukoil. But Spartak had their own bank. But it was weird. You had to bank with their bank. You couldn't just get your money paid straight to whatever bank you wanted. You had to have an account with their bank, and then you had to move your money that way. Yeah, but going back to I had reservations, of course I did. But and when they first came in, I think Celtic said we want this, and they went right, no worries, we'll pay that. And then I thought there was potential of moving to England as well, but Spartak had already came in really, really heavy, and Celtic were like, well, it's kind of one of them where, listen, it's a business at the end of the day, and I totally understand that. Someone else has to pay the same kind of money. So it's either...
What were the other clubs involved at that time that were sniffing around?
So there was like Everton, Spurs, Villa. So Villa would have been the main one, to be honest with you. And I kind of held off a little bit, thinking I think Villa will be able to do it. And Martin Lee was the manager at the time, actually. And they, funnily enough, he kind of ended up resigning right after that transfer window, because I don't think he... This
kinda got what
isn't
he
the
wanted,
same,
sort of thing.
maybe not the full reason, but was probably never able to spend what he wanted to spend. They never ended up coming back in, and it was kind of that, well, stay at Celtic or go to Russia. And I was like, do you know what, I'll go across and kind of see how it is. So I kind of was like, can I come across for 3-4 days and kind of see the place? I went across, I was like, yeah, can I actually see myself living here?
Is there ever a moment where you really realise the cultural difference? I don't know if that is football related or the way the clubs run, or if it's just something in kind of personal life.
Yeah, there's a million stories from Russia in terms of how it was different, but probably just my first day was really, really bizarre. Like, not bizarre, it was just a total... You come from Celtic, you go into training at 9:30, 10 o'clock, you train, you go home. I went in there and it was like first day meeting everybody, but Russian people are quite difficult to get to know. Years and years of communism, really quite cold, but once you get to know them and break down those barriers, really, really good people. But my first day was like, sitting in a meeting room and everyone's kind of came in and it's just like shaking hands, you know, like, no, oh, nice to meet you and stuff. Sitting in a meeting, like a video analysis meeting for like an hour and a half of the previous game. We weren't used to that in the UK at that time anyway. And then we had our own room in the training ground, so I had to go up to my room and get my training kit and stuff. And then it was like you had to like have a sleep before training, and then you trained, and then getting back in my car to then go back to the hotel, and I was stuck in traffic for like 3 hours. And I'm like, this is a world away from what I'm used to. And then you're hearing nothing but Russian as well. Russian, Portuguese and Spanish, that was all I heard.
Did you have a translator?
There was one translator, but he could speak all the languages. So he would like do bits of Portuguese, bits of Russian, bits of Spanish, a little bit of English, but you'd really, really have to be like, oh, what's he saying there? So it was a real culture shock.
Thinking of culture shocks, so we could probably do a few episodes on this. What's the standout Romanov stories, memories?
Wow, there was plenty of them, that's for sure. Probably.
Paid you well though? No?
What?
Paid you well though?
I'm starting to notice a theme between these two.
The theme here. No, they didn't actually.
Did they not?
No, they didn't. They didn't. Aidan.
What's the one moment where you just thought this is too mad, too crazy?
There was so many, you know, but even right down to the female that he brought in to oversee whether players were fit or not prior to games. And I think it'd been a lady that had, I think Vladimir had a cancer scare a number of years prior to that, and by all accounts she'd helped him through that and helped him out the other end, and he put all his trust in her. So she had this device that she would come in with, seriously, on a Friday prior to a game. And
What's it shaped like? You're allowed to say that?
You're not, Aidan, no, you're not.
Yeah, well, that's
What did it
Anyway,
look like? That's what I
well,
mean. What a device?
It
Explain.
was a device that you put your finger on,
Right, okay.
right? And it would tell you whether or not you could play the following day.
So every player done this?
Every player. It's a great device for a manager that doesn't want to make big decisions. A great device for them. But that was the reality. So they could tell you if you were left out, that you were left out because the device had said that you weren't in a fit state to play the following day. So these are the types of things, the bizarre things that...
like a green light to play, red light to not.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think it was just a way of him being able to manipulate the team he wanted to play. So it was loads
Did that
of
become normal when the team changed? Like playing under a manager, the manager picks the team and all the rest of it. Obviously, through that period, at times the team was changing. Did it just become normal for you?
To an extent, but you know, we pushed back on a number of things, but it was difficult. You know, even in some of the meetings where he spoke in front of the group and then would speak to the manager also in front of the group. He would accuse the manager of sometimes not carrying out his instructions, not removing
In front of
players.
everybody?
Yeah, in front of. It was bizarre. It was a crazy period. Another thing that was really difficult during that period was the amount of players within the
That's
club.
what they still talked about that even when I was at the club.
You know,
there wasn't
we've-
enough space.
I honestly remember there was a period where I think they acquired 11 players in a transfer window on the final day, and then you had a situation where you almost had 2 first-team squads training. You know, you just can't create a culture or, you know, a real spirit within the organisation under that. So it was really difficult, and there was just no trust within the organisation with anybody. So it came to the point, of course, where I spoke out against the regime, which ultimately ended my time there. But it was difficult because it turned out to be the club that I hadn't, you know, experienced over the 3 or 4 years prior to them turning. There was a number of good things about it. It created the excitement of the season where we qualified for the Champions League qualification stage, which was one of the biggest disappointments during my career there, that we didn't manage to go on and get to the group stages. I think we lost to Ike Athens over 2 legs.
That was at Murrayfield.
It was at Murrayfield, Stephen, and it's one of the things that I thought they got wrong during that period. There was a period there where we played our European games at Murrayfield, and of course, to generate greater finance to the club, But the issue,
that atmosphere.
you lost the atmosphere of Tynecastle, and I think that was a big aspect. I genuinely look back at that and think that if we'd played Ike Athens at Tynecastle, we could have progressed to group stages.
This is one of those where I'm wondering if I'm being stitched up. Who was Pyjama Man?
Pyjama Man, I think, was a masseur that came into the organisation. Of course, the Pyjama Man was just his dress sense, but
right, okay.
he was just
like a terrible superhero.
Exactly that. But there was plenty. There was so many. You know, I could talk about it all day.
Enjoyed that.
Very good.
Happy with that?
Yep,
Job
very
done.
good.
What an insight. Honestly, we covered a lot of ground there. Two fantastic guests. Let's thank them. First of all, Aiden McGeady and Steven Pressley. Thank you very much.
Thanks a
Good
lot.
co-hosting from you. I'm telling you.
I'll
You
be
enjoying
back if
this?
you want
Your
me.
gig?
You enjoying
I'll be
this?
back if you want. I like it. I like it a lot. Like it this side over that side. Don't you talk as much rubbish.
Not under the same spotlight. I enjoyed it.
under the
Brilliant. As
pressure.
much rubbish.
Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we will be back soon on the warm-up.